There is a particular kind of exhaustion that does not show up on your face. It does not slow your steps or make you cancel plans. It lives quietly behind your competence, tucked neatly beneath your reassuring smile and your steady voice. It is the exhaustion of the person who everyone else leans on, the one who never seems to need anything, the one who always shows up, the one people call when the world falls apart. And if you are that person, you already know this feeling without needing a name for it. But today, let us give it one. What you are carrying is emotional burnout, and it is one of the heaviest, most invisible forms of depletion a human being can experience. Being the strong one is not something most people choose consciously. It is something that is assigned to you, often very early in life, and then slowly, quietly, it becomes your identity. Maybe you were the eldest child in a home where chaos was the norm, so you learned to hold things together before you even understood what holding things together meant. Maybe you grew up watching a parent struggle, and somewhere in your young mind, you made a silent promise to never be a burden. Maybe every time you showed vulnerability, it was met with discomfort, dismissal, or worse. So you learned that your feelings were inconvenient, and you packed them away with extraordinary efficiency. Psychologists call this adaptive behavior, and in the environments where it develops, it is genuinely life-saving. The problem is that what saves you as a child can quietly suffocate you as an adult. What happens inside the nervous system of someone who chronically suppresses their own emotional needs is not neutral. The human body is not designed for one-directional emotional flow, constantly giving, absorbing, supporting, and stabilizing others while denying its own need for the same. Over time, the emotional reserves that you draw from to support everyone around you begin to deplete, not slowly and gracefully the way a candle burns down, more like a battery that gets drained and recharged incompletely, again and again until one day it simply will not hold a charge anymore. That is burnout. That is the moment your body and your psyche stop cooperating with the role you have been playing because they have been trying to get your attention for years, and you have been too busy making sure everyone else was okay to listen. What makes this particular form of burnout so psychologically complex is the identity fusion that happens over time. When being strong becomes who you are, rather than simply something you do, the idea of laying that down feels like self-erasure. People around you have come to rely on your steadiness. You have built relationships, earned respect, and perhaps even found a sense of worth in being the person others need. Psychologically, this creates a bind, because allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to struggle openly, to say, "I am not okay," feels like a betrayal of the self you have spent decades constructing. And so, instead of reaching out, you push through. Instead of resting, you redirect. Instead of healing, you help someone else. Because helping someone else is the one emotional experience your nervous system knows how to process without shame. This is why the burnout of the strong one so often goes unrecognized, even by the person experiencing it. It does not look like falling apart. It looks like low-grade irritability that you cannot explain. It looks like crying in the car on the way home and being perfectly composed by the time you walk through the door. It looks like fantasizing about simply disappearing, not in a dangerous way, but in the profound, aching way of someone who is desperately, silently longing for someone else to take care of things for once. It looks like resentment that you feel guilty about because you know no one forced you to be this way. It looks like feeling utterly alone in a room full of people who love you, because not one of them truly knows the weight you carry, and you would not dare tell them. That resentment deserves particular attention, because it is one of the most misunderstood emotions that accompanies this pattern. When you consistently give without receiving, when your needs are perpetually secondary, resentment is not a character flaw. It is a signal. It is your emotional system's way of telling you that an imbalance exists, that something is being taken from you, whether intentionally or not. The tragedy is that strong ones often turn that resentment inward, weaponizing it against themselves with thoughts like, "I should not feel this way," or "No one asked me to do this." And while there is some truth in the second thought, it misses the deeper psychological reality that you did not choose this role freely. You learned it. You were shaped into it. And unlearning it requires not self-blame, but extraordinary self-compassion. There is also a profound grief that lives inside this burnout, one that rarely gets acknowledged. It is the grief of the support you never received, of the times you needed someone and no one came, of the version of yourself who learned very early on that needing things was dangerous or useless or simply not allowed. That child, or that younger version of you, deserved care, deserved to be held through difficulty rather than expected to transcend it. And grieving that is not weakness. Grieving that is, in fact, one of the most psychologically courageous things a person can do, because it means allowing yourself to feel the truth of your own story without immediately rushing to rationalize it or fix it. Healing from this pattern does not mean becoming someone who no longer cares for others. It does not mean abandoning your capacity for strength, which is real and remarkable and has carried you and countless others through genuine hardship. It means expanding your definition of strength to include vulnerability. It means recognizing that the bravest thing you will ever do is not holding everything together. It is telling one trusted person that you are struggling and allowing them to show up for you. It means practicing the radical and uncomfortable act of receiving, even when every instinct tells you to deflect the care that comes your way. From a therapeutic standpoint, this work often begins with learning to identify needs before they reach a crisis point. Strong ones tend to have a high threshold for distress. They do not recognize they are overwhelmed until they are completely underwater, developing what psychologists call emotional attunement to yourself. Checking in with your own internal state the same way you instinctively check in with others is a foundational shift. Asking yourself, daily and honestly, what do I need right now? And then taking that question seriously is not indulgence. It is the psychological equivalent of fueling the vehicle that carries everyone else. Boundaries, too, are not walls. They are the architecture of sustainable giving. When you protect your energy, you are not becoming selfish. You are ensuring that the care you offer comes from fullness rather than depletion, that it is genuine rather than performed at cost to your own mental health. The people in your life who truly love you do not need you to sacrifice yourself. They need you to stay. So if you are the strong one, if you have been the pillar, the anchor, the one who holds it all together, hear this. Your needs are not a burden. Your exhaustion is not weakness. Your desire to be cared for is not a failure of character. It is the most human thing about you, pressing up against the armor you built so long ago you forgot it was armor. You are allowed to put it down. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be the one who needs something for a change, and beginning to believe that slowly, gently, with patience for yourself is not the end of your strength. It is, at last, the beginning of your healing.